Beautiful. All right. How exciting. All right. Make sure all our devices are muted. And guys, I am so excited. Thank you so much. I mean, we're here live on YouTube. This is, I'm just so grateful each and every week that we have to come out here and be with you folks. I want to say thank you also to CJ Wallace and his YouTube channel. We're grateful to always come out here to the Velocity channel, and this is a great time. Today, of course, we're talking about credit banking. And folks, I'm just trying to get my PowerPoint up and running. All right, so let me make sure that this shows up. And then, oh, that didn't work. Oh, as you can see, it's just me. Ray's here somewhere, but I always have to, I can figure it out. I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. All right, so, okay, yeah, here we go. Share screen. So I'm going to share screen. Beautiful, now you can see my screen. And now I'm gonna share my PowerPoint. So hopefully that goes. Oh, thank you very much. Look who's in the house. Mr. Ray Fleming, everyone. Okay, so I'm not sharing the right screen again. So I have to go here, share this screen, click here. Oh, Ray, you'd be so proud of me.
I got it together.
I got this all up and running. I'm a little late and everyone's bored, but folks, we're so excited to be sharing with you tonight's Mastermind, Credit Banking Mastermind number 19, Credit Banking and the Search for the Lost American Dream. Folks, we've got so much to cover tonight that we're just gonna jump right on in, okay? As always, we've got to make the lawyers happy and let you know that I'm not a licensed attorney, accountant, financial advisor, broker, or any other licensed individual. Even if I had a license, I'm not acting in that capacity. Therefore, I will not discuss or provide any specific counsel, advice, or instruction that would apply to specific individuals. This presentation is intended to be general information only. Wise Guys and Ties LLC recommends that you engage in the services of professionals when making decisions that have a legal impact, especially financial decisions. That means it's up to you to do your own due diligence.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right, who are we? We're the Wise Guys in Ties. My name's Joseph Smith. This is my business partner, Ray Fleming.
Good evening.
And we're here to really help you maximize your potential. I mean, what is happening? We're talking about credit banking, right? Credit banking and that lost American dream. This little piece of the map, what are we covering tonight? We're actually talking about implementing the actual strategies. So over the last few weeks, what have we talked about? We've talked about budgeting and how to create positive cash flow by increasing our income, decreasing our expenses, looking at duplications and how we can eliminate those, and creating multiple streams of income through the creation of, well, I mean, you can do it through working a second job, of course, or getting overtime, but also creating a business and having your business invest in assets and learning different ways to maximize your cash flow. And with that cash flow, that's one critical component. And we're going to talk about that tonight. But also we've talked about, we had a special guest came on a couple of weeks ago from Hawaii, Richie Galarse Pancos, who talked about the movement of money and why it's so important to move money between accounts so that you can really maximize your payment history and your experiences and build your relationship with the banks, with the lending institutions that are out there. We also, over the last couple of weeks, have talked about the difference between credit lines of credit is what we're talking about, and loans, like bank loans, home mortgage loans, car loans, student loans, and how the interest is amortized. And it's amortized differently. So on a loan, you'll notice that everything is front loaded. That means that you have so much going on in the way of paying interest to the bank. Your first payment is like 82% of that is just going straight to interest. Now you look at lines of credit, we talked about how the lines of credit are really just there's an interest rate attached to it, but it's an APR, an annual percentage rate, which we've been talking about a 21% interest. But what if it was 30%? 30% interest. If you had a card with 30% interest, do you realize that your monthly interest would be 2.5%? That's all you'd be paying on the money.
2.5 a month.
2.5.
Not bad.
And so when we talk about the interest and what things cost, this is really important, because now we're going to bring it all together. We've been talking about budgeting and cash flow and lines of credit. How do we bring this all together? How do we create the credit banking strategy that allows us to eliminate our debt in 1/3 of the time? Well, let's answer a few questions. Why credit banking? Well, we talk about this because there's a difference in mindset. There are those who are employees. So if you're an employee, you filled out a W-2 or a 1099, or you might actually own your own business. But if you're the only employee of that business, your business only makes money when you work it, then you're still an employee. You just bought your job. But there's a difference between employees and those who are actual business owners who create systems, and those who invest and let their money do the work for them. So we talk about credit banking and what credit banking as a strategy to use our credit lines as our banking accounts. And this comes down to a mindset. Employees use their cash as currency, creating a cash scarcity mentality. And what do I mean by cash scarcity mentality? I'll tell you what I mean by that. A cash scarcity mentality is when your fears and your anxieties are turned inward, and you begin to lose all hope, and you fall into despair. Your dreams shrink till they've gone away, and you're in complete survival mode. And you don't even know if you'll have enough to make it to the end of this month or next month. You just don't know. And it leads to the worst type of thinking, poverty, a poverty mindset, despair. People make very foolish decisions when they're gripped by so much fear.
Short-term thinking, 30-day thinking. Right.
And the scarcity mentality leads to hoarding, leads to this is all I've got to live on, and it's really a dangerous place for people to be in.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point, because totally different subject. I was talking to my mom the other day, and how my goal was, to have everything organized and cleaned in my garage and no junk, which was never before. I used to have cars, car parts, all sorts of stuff. I just had stuff everywhere about 10 years ago. But then now I actually don't want anything. Like, if I'm not going to use it right now, get rid of it. Like, declutter the life, because if I need it, we can get it. And so I feel like that's a big difference, is when you don't feel like there's a shortage at all, you can actually free your life of burden. You don't feel like you have to hold on to anything, because there's no shortage, and then especially with money, when you realize there is no shortage of money, there may just be a shortage of your knowledge on how to get the money. Once you have the knowledge on how to get your money, then you don't have to worry about not having money.
What you're describing is what I call the abundance mentality. When you're in a scarcity mentality, you can't really give, you can't be generous, you can't have any of the, people want to be a good person. They want to help their fellow man, and they want to do things for their kids or with their kids, but when you're in a scarcity mentality, it's like all of that goes away. You can't help anybody else. Instead of giving to charity, you're the charity case.
Right, yes.
But you see, when we talk about rich folks, who's rich? Rich is a state of mind, is what I think. If you own a business that actually creates a system, and that system is duplicatable, and you can have other people step into that system for you, much like what we've created, right? Then, wealth is, it can be a mindset. If your expenses are $3,000 a month, and you have systems in place that bring in $5,000 a month, I would argue, from one perspective, that person's wealthy. They have an abundance. They have more coming in than what they need.
Absolutely.
But see, rich folks, what they do is they leverage their currency and they use their cash to accelerate their growth and grow their wealth, creating an abundance mentality. And that's really what is behind the credit banking strategy, is learning how to use your cash and your credit, your currencies in a different way, and how we can accelerate debt pay down and create this wealth creation. So I put up some bullet points that are important to me of some of the benefits that I have seen happen through credit banking strategy. Rapid debt reduction. We're talking about paying off large loans in 1/3 the time or less, and increasing monthly cash flow, watching the amount of cash that's left over after you've paid all the expenses increase, right? Increase cash availability. So sometimes because your money is already spent before you earn it, having more money sitting in the bank account or having more money sit in available credit, creating financial independence. So many people are stuck on, and they're worried about, what is the government going to do? Is the governor going to open up the country? You know, what are they going to pass another package? You're literally letting other people in some faraway place dictate what's going to happen, right? But when you learn credit banking, you actually can create your own economy. You can, because I mean, can you beat the bank? Like, there's a game. Can the bank be beat? The bank's already won. I just want you to know.
You can't beat the bank, but you can join them and play with them.
Right. So if you can't beat them, how do we learn how to play the game the way that they're playing and experience wins the same way that the bank does, right? I use my business to invest in real estate, and we've been able to use credit banking as a great way to, this is an advanced strategy, but eliminate the debt that we have on our properties and increase our equity. And that gives us even more options on lendability, because we can then collateralize the equity that we have and get access to even more money. And I got to tell you, when you start to gain more control over your finances, and you watch your debt balances decrease and the stress goes away, life is so much better.
Absolutely, yes.
So much better. And then, of course, I put last there, become more attractive, because I have to tell you that when I put money into the bank account, when we pay off debts, when I'm able to do that, I become a much more attractive husband to my wife. It just happens that way. It's just like, and that can happen for you too. And if you're not married, don't worry. Get control of credit banking, and then the opportunities will avail themselves of you. Okay, so here's my definition of what credit banking is. Credit banking uses lines of credit to free up cash flow to transfer highly expensive amortized loan interest into simpler and less expensive forms of interest, such as an APR. This has the effect of radically decreasing the total number of loan payments. And when you decrease the total number of loan payments, that reduces the total amount of interest that you'll pay. And by decreasing these loan payments and the total amount paid, you're aggressively paying down the principal loan balance. And all of this is done in about 1/3 the time. So a 30-year mortgage paid off in 10 years. A 5-year car loan, it could be paid off in, 18 months, right? This is an incredible strategy, and we're going to show it to you right now. So what you're looking at on your screen was the budget that we have been talking about and covering over the last couple of weeks. We've talked about the average 2-income American family. And again, we're just pulling numbers from the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics. I had a guy asking me today, well, why are these arbitrary numbers? These aren't arbitrary. This is just average. Half of 2-income American families are making more than this, and the other half are making less. All right, this is just an average across the United States. And so we're looking at everybody's different credit lines, their loans, their different products. So what you see on your pie chart is their actual budget. You see $5,000 of net income after all of the taxes, deductions for retirement have gone out. Well, not retirement, because we put retirement there in that one slice, but your insurance. So you have you have your medical insurance, disability, people, dental, vision, things like that. So your net income that comes in, and then you have in your, if you've seen the wedges there, you have your home mortgage, $1,200 a month. You have your auto vehicle payments. There's 2 cars, $600 a month. You have your credit card payments across 5 or more different credit cards, $600 total dollars, taking care of all that retail debt. And then there's your lifestyle, food, your utilities, gas, entertainment. All of that goes into what your lifestyle is. And then your savings. You have short-term and long-term savings, where most people are putting away large portions of their money into 401ks that are being matched by their employer. And so, and then some people do put little bits of money away into savings accounts. So this was the budget, you total it all up, and your average 2-income American family has $5,000 come in a month, and they see $5,000 go out every month. They're living paycheck to paycheck. Now, these numbers don't match yours because you have more income or less income, or you have totally different numbers. That's fine. The principles here are still the same. Now, as we show you the credit banking strategy, it's important to understand that there are 2 assumptions, major assumptions that we're going to make here. First of all, when we show this to you, that your income is not going to change. All right. The second thing is that your expenses aren't going to change. Now, is that realistic? Is it realistic that your income and your expenses aren't going to change?
No, they fluctuate.
Right. Your income could go up.
Yeah.
And your expenses could go down.
Right. But typically for most people, though, their income does kind of stay the same. And their expenses are kind of averaged out, I guess.
Well, I mean, from a mathematical perspective, we're going to keep them static, but we know in reality they are very dynamic. And so,
like during the summer, your electric could go up because of AC, but your gas bill goes down. In the winter, they're going to switch, things like that.
And then, people's circumstances change. Like, this is a 2-income American family with no kids, but then all of a sudden you have kids. Now your expenses have changed. And people don't always stay at the same career. I mean, people change jobs 5, 7, 10 times. And so hopefully they're moving from a higher pay to higher pay after that. But again, as long as you understand what we're trying to show you in the concepts here, this should make sense to you. All right, so what do? Well, the first step is you take all of your income and you throw it onto your line of credit. You're like, what? That's the first thing we do? How are we going to pay all our bills? Well, stick with us. So as you see on your screen, on the left side, you have your lines of credit. So you have a $15,000 limit, but you're carrying a $12,000 balance at 21% interest. On the right is a breakdown of the loan. So you have a home mortgage and an auto loan. All right, and so they're at 6%. This is how credit banking works. So let's talk about what happens when you put all $5,000 down on your $12,000 balance. Do you have to make your minimum monthly payment? Right? So $600 is your minimum monthly payment. We've overpaid that, right? We've put $5,000 on the card, so you don't have to budget anymore for a $600 minimum monthly payment. So what happens to that? Where does that money go? Well, it goes into your cash flow. What you see is before you had 0 cash flow. Now you've just moved, instead of putting that money into your checking account, it's now going onto the line of credit. What that's done is and you don't have to pay that. You're not budgeting anymore for a $600 minimum monthly payment. Now that you've freed up $600 in your budget. Now let's take a look at the savings. We have $1,400, right? This is broken down from, let's say you have 2 incomes. They're each getting paid twice a month. So there's 4 paychecks. And out of these 4 paychecks, a total of $1,400 is being whisked away into their 401ks, right? Their long-term savings. Now, here's what we tell a lot of people. That money is being invested in, you don't know what, you don't know where, and you don't know what's going to happen. The volatility of the market is very unstable, and it's all outside of your control. what I recommend to folks is that you don't just put all your money there. Even if your company is matching that money, if you end up losing all that money because the stock market crashes, you've gained nothing. And I think that you can benefit more from having that money at your disposal. If you can get educated, or you can use that money to learn how to invest. I mean, what do you think, Ray?
Absolutely. I mean, what are the possibilities? I mean, they're endless. They really are.
But if somebody puts that money away, where it's going off to Wall Street.
Right. I mean, most people don't even know where it is.
I agree. I mean, do even the people who sell you the mutual funds invest in their own mutual funds?
No, not really. No. Mutual funds, I mean, that's really what they are. They're other businesses too. That's all they are, financial businesses. And I feel like a lot of folks don't understand that. When you invest in a mutual fund, you're investing in a financial business. And so what's troublesome is it's different, because if that mutual fund loses money, it's not going to easily be recouped.
But if somebody took that $1,400 in this average here and they applied it to eliminating their debt, getting themselves educated on how to invest their own money, if they still want to trade, why don't they become their own broker, right? Why don't they learn how to do this, and then they have more control.
Right.
This is just money that you're sending off to. I put it like this: who cares more about the well-being of your family and your money, you or some broker in Wall Street?
Right. It's you obviously care more, but then it comes into, I hear a lot of folks say they don't have the time, they don't have the knowledge, they don't even know where to start necessarily, and they're like, well, I don't have time to learn about trading Forex or trading stocks or anything like that,
or real estate. Well, I heard a quote today from Benjamin Franklin that said, if you think education is expensive in terms of money or time put into it, try ignorance.
You're going to pay for it either way. I used to pay for it the hard way.
Mm-hmm. So, absolutely.
But if somebody's like, well, I was told to just go to a financial advisor, get into some mutual funds, I was told to do that. That was what the plan was laid before me. So are we saying that there's something wrong with that plan?
Well, I think that instead of investing into some distant future that might not even be there, you can't even touch that money till you're 59 and a half, right? And then even then, what's going to happen? We're just hoping and praying and assuming that some investment that we have no control over will someday be there to take care of us. Or can we take control and capture that money and use it right now to benefit our current situation and invest in ourselves?
Absolutely. Everybody's probably heard the name Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
He's owns a lot of businesses, but does it through buying of stock and different
people's
things.
Insurance policies.
Yes. But he also says, he only has a small number of holdings anytime because he didn't partake in the internet bubble or anything like that, because he said he didn't understand how any of these businesses were making money. And that's also why he's extremely wealthy. He doesn't speculate. He looks at the details. Sometimes I've shared the story about how I used to be wanting to get into stocks, and the day that the biggest Star Wars film, I had some money invested in Disney, and the day that the biggest Star Wars film went out, the one that did like $4 billion across the world.
Force Awakens. Right?
Yeah, it was like the biggest, this was several years back, but Disney stock fell like 5% that day on the day of the release of the biggest thing. And it was because I didn't understand that all of Disney's earnings most of their earnings came from their media companies, and ESPN being one of the biggest money producers and that was during all the cable cutting, and they planned the release on the quarterly earnings release, and so they could try to offset the crash of their stock. And I didn't even realize that. And I was like, oh, this movie's coming out, stock's going to skyrocket, but I didn't understand how the business of Disney actually worked. I thought it was just Disney movies, the theme park, when the majority of it is other things. So if I don't understand
you should stick to real estate investing. Much better.
It's a lot easier to understand or to mitigate the risk.
All right. So if we're not going to be putting that money away into long-term retirement, where does that money go? Well, what we do with that is we put it into our cash flow. And by doing that, we totally redo the budget now. So before, when we were living paycheck to paycheck, we didn't have any cash flow. Now we've been able to free up cash flow by looking at areas where, first of all, by putting all of our income onto our line of credit, we don't have to budget for the minimum credit card payments anymore. And now, second of all, is we're not putting away money into the 401k, sending it off to Wall Street for them to gamble it in the Wall Street casino. We're going to actually utilize our own money to resolve our debt situation, but also to build and grow our wealth and learn how to invest ourselves. I mean, this is what we're going to do. And so we haven't had to work an extra job. You didn't have to go get overtime, right? This was just looking at how the budget was currently focused, and it was heavily focused on putting money into maxing out the 401k contributions. So now all we're doing is we're pulling back on and not putting anything in there, and we're going to create cash flow. And so now we've created $2,000 of cash flow. Now this is very important. We've talked about cash flow as a huge component. It is the fuel or the speed at which we're going to pay down our debts. So let's take a look at now how this works. So looking at our lines of credit, we have a $15,000 limit, but we're carrying a $12,000 balance. Now, by switching over to this credit banking method, and it goes by a lot of names. You might have heard of velocity banking. You might have heard of mortgage sweep strategies. You might have heard of cash flow banking. Right? We're talking about cash flow here. It goes by a lot of names, and there are some subtle nuances that make them different, but at the core, they're all basically the same. So credit banking is a generic term, which means we're going to use lines of credit as our bank. And so we're going to put our income and our expenses all into the line of credit. And here's what that looks like. So let's go ahead and show you. So as we put all of the credit banking now onto the line of credit, what happens when you put $5,000 onto a $12,000 balance? Well, it goes down. And in case you're wondering what you're seeing there, this all has like an Indiana Jones theme. So that's one of the planes. And remember in the movie where they're always flying from one part on the map to the other? Just so somebody asked me one time, why the plane? What's going on? If you watch an Indiana Jones movie, you'll totally get the reference. So $5,000 down pays down that line of credit. So now you're at what, 7,000? But we have to put our expenses back on the card. So we put the expenses back on. We have $3,000. But then now look what's happened. Our balance in 1 month has now changed, right? We were at the beginning of the previous month at a $12,000 balance. Now, after going through this next 30 days, we're now at a $10,000 balance. We've actually paid down our debt by $2,000. We paid it down by the actual cash flow that we generated, right? And so anything you do once, you can do twice, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, 3 times. So what you see is if you're starting with a $12,000 balance and you're paying it down at the speed of $2,000 a month, you're going to actually have a zero balance within 6 months, right? I mean, do the math on that. You start with 12 and you're paying it down by $2,000 every month, right? Because you put $5,000 down on the card and that you're putting $3,000 back on. So you're paying it down more than what you're using it every month. This is banking through your lines of credit. So you put all your income and all of your expenses through your line of credit. Now, keep in mind that there is an APR. This is 21%, right? But when you divide that by 12, that means you're paying 1.75% interest per month on whatever the balance is. not the total balance, or I mean, not the starting balance, but each month you have a lower balance. So then you're paying 1.75% of that. So at the end, you've ended up only paying $730 of interest, right? That, I mean, how long, do you know how long it would take to pay that off? Pay off that line of credit, right? If we stop using these credit cards and continue to just make the minimum monthly payments, how long would that take? Do you know?
About 6 months. But wait, whoa, no. If we didn't, sorry, I was responding to a YouTube
I'm sorry.
question.
I'm sorry.
No, but if we didn't, I think it's like 7 to what?
Well, I mean, it's hard to get a grasp on it. I mean, I'll put this up here, and this might blow people away. It could take 28 years. It could cost you $16,000 in interest. People would be like, what? How's that?
Could take a really long time.
Well, I mean, if you do the math simply, and you see what the principal balance pay down is, it could be it could only take you two years and 3 months maybe to pay it down.
Right, because each card, each lender can set their own kind of amounts on the percent of payback they want to see.
Right, but mathematically speaking, while you could pay it down in theory that way, it never happens. And so what I'm trying to, the reason why these numbers look kind of crazy on there is because we're looking at how did you get to a $12,000 balance to begin with? There was something that happened in your life, an emergency, a major payment, a life change happened, and you needed to pay for it. And that happens to everybody every year of their life. So if you need to keep putting about $12,000 balance on your card every year because of handling life's emergencies, well, I mean, it's going to be very difficult to ever pay that debt, because any progress that you make, people get sometimes big checks from the government, from maybe an earned income credit or a tax return or a stimulus check, and then they want to throw it onto their credit balances and they pay it down. But then life happens, and then you've got to rack those cards all the way back up again. And so what you find is this vicious cycle. And if that's you, it's going to take, if you're going to keep having to come up with an additional $12,000 of expenses every year that's unaccounted for, right? And you don't have the savings or anything to handle that, that's going to take you over 20 years to eventually pay all that down.
That's crazy.
That's what we're looking at here. So,
but that's what they want, though. They want to get you stuck into that rut.
Right.
They don't want you using credit cards this way. They want you to only use it or be afraid of it, maybe, so you rack up that balance and then have to stretch out those payments. Right.
I mean, if we could be disciplined enough to never use the credit card again and just pay it all down, like I said, it would mathematically be done in 2 years and like 3 months or something like that. You would just, paying the minimums, you could pay it all down. But since that's not realistic, that's not what happens, right? Then we don't really want to necessarily look at it that way. So here's what happened. When you paid down your line of credit, right? Every 6 months, the bank's looking at how you use that line of credit. Did you make all your payments on time? Did you even use the card? Did you pay it down more than what the balance was? So each month, is the balance carried over less than it was the month before? Did you just make the minimum, or did you pay more, right? They're looking at all these things. They're looking at your utilization. How much of the actual line of credit are you utilizing? And so you're paying it down. You're getting under 50%, under 30%. The bank's liking this. And so here's what's going to happen. If you start utilizing a credit banking strategy within 6 to 12 months, you're going to see your credit limit increase, because the banks are seeing that you know how to use their product. In fact, this is all done by computers too. It's not even necessary. I mean, it can be done by a manual review, but they're soft pulling your credit every 6 to 12 months. And if they determine that you're doing things the right way, you could get this credit limit increase. I mean, and it's happened to a lot of people. So you're looking, oh, wow, my credit limit just went up. Because there's a lot of people, they use credit and then they pay it off next month, and they use credit and then they pay it off next month, right? Well, these are the kind of activities that they like to see. They want to see a lot of activity, and they want to see you being responsible and keeping low balances.
That's the key right there. Responsible,
Mm-hmm.
low risk. Because
Right.
if you're low risk in the system, then you'll get the increase. But if you're a high risk, then you'll get the decrease.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. So if you take a look now, you've got a problem, right? Credit banking only works when you actually have debt, but you've just now paid down your debt. And because we're in America in a consumer-based society, that means that you're likely to go ahead and now use this credit to go buy more stuff. And that's not the right way to use your credit. In fact, we have the rules. You want to talk about the rules?
Absolutely. First and foremost, emergencies. I mean, as we were kind of growing up, we learned about using credit for only the case emergencies. I would get it. The first credit card I had, I was like, oh no, I don't want to get burned on this. I'm just going to put it away for that emergency. But if done in the wrong emergency situation, usually when we use it in emergencies is, I have no money left and this is the last thing I have. I got to put these tires, I got to put this, I got to do something to save me. But when we say emergencies on this, it's because this becomes your emergency fund, your rainy day fund. When we start to implement the credit banking strategy, you are turning your lines of credit into both your checking and your savings. So first and foremost, this is for emergencies in the sense that this is going to be your safety net. The larger line you have, the bigger savings safety net you'll have.
So how much would you say of a credit line, what percentage would you say you're saving for emergencies?
At least 50% of that. You don't want to, as we start to extend yourself over 50%, you start to become a higher risk to the bank, and that starts to affect your utilization, which makes up, almost a third of your credit score. So that can start to negatively impact your score, and lenders don't like that. So keeping it under 50%, or even half of 50, maybe 25 to 30%, that's more ideal. But that gives you plenty of cushion to work on the other things, because you're going to want to start to use this as a debt pay down strategy, so you can convert that high interest front loaded loans into something more manageable. And what you're going to talk about right now, and then also assets, utilizing the true wealth creation of opium, or not opium, not selling opium. You don't want to do that. Other people's money, and the true leverage and wealth creation. And that's what the lines of credit are truly for.
So are you saying I can't use my credit card to go on a vacation anymore?
If it's a business trip.
What about buy a big screen TV?
If it's for your office.
What about, my daughter's prom?
Well, I guess you could in certain ways, if you're paying your children through your business. Well, there's a whole lot of ways. I mean, you can end up doing that. What you want to end up start paying for,
but you're also
the doodads of life, is through your cash flow. Greatly increase your cash flow. If you don't have a lot of cash flow, then that might be the first thing you want to look at.
But if you're speaking to a lot of folks here on this who are watching this, they don't actually have a business.
Right.
So you're an educated business owner. So you're like, I can figure out some way to make a write-off out of it. But your average person, if they're trying to utilize their credit cards the right way, they shouldn't be spending money on vacations or like you said, doodads, TVs.
Your cash flow for that.
Right, exactly.
Any of those extra liabilities that you're going to be purchase them with your cash flow.
Now, what if I feel like $2,000 is not enough cash flow for me to do the things I want to do?
Then most people would say you have a spending problem. But I always argue that point. I don't think I have a spending problem. I think I have an income problem. I like to spend money, and so I just need more of that.
Right. I mean, and a lot of times we talked about this on the budget. People's first thoughts when they're trying to bring their budget into balance is to figure out what they can cut back on, what they could do without, how to scrimp and save. And most people just think of their income as static. Well, that's just how much I make. When, and we go over this in great detail, but there are so many different ways to free up extra money and to create multiple streams of income. So the answer to my question is, if $2,000 cash flow isn't enough for your dreams, then grow your cash flow to match your dreams.
I think it's one of those things that what I had to do is I had to connect the dots with understanding that I love to help people. I need money to help charities, my church. But if I don't have the money, I can't help people. But then I realized if I help people in other ways, then I can actually make money by helping people. Does that make sense? I guess it goes back to this, one of the first the guys I ever met when I wanted to better my life. And he said, Ray, don't be chasing the money, chase the people that you can help. If you go out and help people get what they need in life, then you won't have to worry about money anymore. That's
what Zig Ziglar used to say, right? If you help enough people in life get what they want, then you'll get what you want.
Absolutely. And it's very true, because if you, for example, if you find that this credit banking strategy is valuable, invite your friends out. They share it with them.
Like and share it.
Right. Like and share it. And and that also brings up, because on the YouTube, we got a lot of amazing stuff happening, a lot of real estate talk. But I want you guys to know, both in this, in the mastermind here on the credit banking, if you guys are liking this credit banking mastermind, guess what? We got super exciting news for you. Next week on Thursdays, we're going to start doing a weekly real estate business mastermind.
What?
On Thursday nights. Everybody loves the credit banking mastermind. We're going to start because a lot of real estate investors are on here. You know, you guys are like Nasty. She had a question about, which we can dive into a little bit later, but she was wondering about her fourplex and if this is a good time to rent. You know, there's a lot of things there. We're going to start implementing some real estate masterminding Thursday nights. And so you're going to want to make sure you tune in for that.
Is that led by the property guy?
I'm going to be heading that up, and it'll be one of those things where, you know, on this, we do case studies. You may be able to bring a property. You may be able to bring your real estate problem, and we can analyze that. We can work through it and see if we can come up with a good solution and get some input from the other folks in the community on how to move forward.
If you have a problem, he'll solve it. Check out the hook while my DJ revolves.
I'm excited about this, guys. I mean, and gals, all of you out there, it's something that just goes well with this, because
absolutely. Well, I mean, I've been the money guy and everybody's been listening to me, and I love finances, and I've made it my niche to help people with their business finances and their personal finances. But you know, we're underutilizing the property guy. Everybody here locally in Tucson comes to you, but now we're going to bring your talents to the world.
Might as well.
This is going to be great. Okay. Now, folks, we're talking about credit banking and the credit banking strategy and the rules. You use your lines of credit now only for emergencies, debt pay down, and assets. We've eliminated all of our credit card debt, but we still have to take care of the loan debt. So we have this $200,000 debt we're carrying on this house. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to take $13,000 as a principal only payment off of our lines of credit. And we're going to make that to the bank, principal only. So we don't want this going to the interest at all. Now, before, if you remember, we had $12,000 as was the balance we had before. And with a $2,000 cash flow, it took us 6 months to pay it down. Well, at $13,000, right? It's only going to take 7 months now to pay that off. And the total interest paid is $1,480, right? Now, also I want you to keep in mind that all the numbers that you see are all rounded, right? Because no number in real estate, no number in finances ever is perfectly zero, right? So we're just rounding for the sake of making things a little bit easier for you. But take a look at that. We're able to put $13,000 and we paid the principal down by that much. And then we could pay that chunk off in just 7 months. And then you just wash, rinse, and repeat. You just do that over and over and over again. Now, if we go back and we look, before when we were looking after 5 years, right? 5 years is important because last time we looked at 5 years was when people either move, right, and they sell their house and then they get into a new mortgage, a new 30-year mortgage on a house, or they refinance. So if we look at, let's say the folks, this 2-income family, they've been in their house for 5 years. They've been paying on it for 5 years at $1,200 a month. That means they paid $72,000 towards the mortgage. And again, these numbers are rounded, but if you look, the principal, how much went towards the principal over 5 years? That's 60 months. $13,000 paid down the principal, while $59,000 was paid to interest. Now, look at that. Let me see if I can get my mouse working here, right? $13,000. That should look familiar because we're talking $13,000 over here. So with a credit banking strategy, we paid $13,000 in principal off in 7 months, and it cost us $1,480 in interest. Over here, making the $1,200 a month, we paid that over 60 months, right? And $13,000 went towards the principal, and it cost us $59,000 in interest. So as you can see, credit banking as a strategy is not only faster, but do you see how it's cheaper? It's more, it's inexpensive. Okay, so the $13,000 principal only payment, when you made that, you skipped ahead in time. It's like you got in your DeLorean, your time machine, and you went back to the future, right? And what you did when you did that, skipping over all make payments that you skip over on an amortization schedule. You saved yourself on that first $13,000 principal only payment. You saved yourself $38,866 of interest.
Whew,
and $38,866 of interest saved is $38,866 earned.
Very nice.
All right, so let's take a look at this. Credit banking. If using a credit card, if we're using the credit cards here as the line of credit, 21% interest, and our net income is $5,000, but our total expenses is $3,000, that means we have cash flow $2,000. It would take us 6.33 years to pay off the rest of that $200,000 balance. Now, again, that's not factoring the fact that we just put this first 7 months in here. Okay, so that would be basically it took you 5 years to pay down the house $13,000, and would take a little over another 5 years to just pay off the rest of the house utilizing a credit banking strategy. You would save $55,000, or no, excuse me, the only interest you would pay is $55,128. Saving yourself $119,000 in interest. That means that's money that you would have paid to the bank if you'd stayed in the loan for a full 30 years and paid it all out. But because you're shortening the total number of payments being made, because you keep skipping over payments each time you put a $13,000 principal only payment down, I mean, that skips over what, 3 or 4 years right there. Every time you do that, boom, you're just skipping over all that interest that would have been paid. You're saving that interest. Man,
that's amazing.
I think so. I agree. Now, we get some objections from time to time. And so people will say, well, wait a minute, whoa, time out. If I eliminate our savings, what do we do in case of emergency? That's a legitimate question, because we tell people your short-term savings, your long-term savings, get rid of that, because all you're doing is either giving the bank money to make money off of you, or you're giving Wall Street money to make money off of you, and they don't care about you as much as you do. Well, it goes back to the rules. Remember, rule number 1, it's for emergencies. And Ray was talking about that, right? We're only using 50% of our line of credit. That's going to be the 50% that we use is like our checking account. The other 50% is for emergencies. So if anything were to happen, right, life or death or anything major that's going to severely affect the economic situation of the family, right, it becomes an emergency. So we can go ahead and put that on the line of credit. Now, let's say as we're going through our credit banking strategy, maybe a couple months down the line, here we are, we get a $2,000 hospital bill. I mean, you've got your insurance and you're like, man, insurance covers everything, doesn't it?
Not necessarily.
No. All of a sudden you find out, wait a minute, the ambulance or the anesthesia or
the helicopter.
And so all of a sudden, even though insurance covered maybe 80% of stuff, you still get a $2,000 bill. Well, that's okay, because what we're doing, we go ahead. Can we pay a hospital bill with a credit card?
Absolutely. And here, little tip of the day: if you have a big hospital bill, ask for an itemized receipt, because there's a lot of things that you get put in there that maybe you didn't have to actually pay for. There's a little tip of the day.
And if you have a business, a lot of that can be written off.
Absolutely.
All right. So remember, we're working with $2,000 in cash flow, right? So we had a $2,000 cash bill, so we put that back onto the card. So that actually cost us maybe a month, but you see, we just go back to utilizing our strategy. And so instead of taking 6 months or 7 months to pay down the balance that we had, and so it takes us 7 or 8 months. That's okay, because we have the capacity in our line of credit to handle emergencies. So when we eliminate our savings account and we don't even put money into a checking account, we still have the benefit of both. Because I mean, what can you buy with credit these days? Well, what can't you buy really with credit cards these days? The fact is that when you put your cash into your line of credit, you're converting from cash to available credit. It's like a currency exchange. But both, I mean, some people, I would argue that in today's world, credit is more liquid than cash. Would you agree with that statement?
Absolutely. I mean, cash is kind of, even right now, just what's happening, cash is kind of frowned upon right now. Most places are wanting you to just use a card.
I know, I've seen that in a lot of places, like, credit only, no cash. I've seen that in some store signs, like,
well, if they won't take your cash, I will.
Well, no, like those late night, you go to a gas station, there's someone sitting in a box there, mm-hmm. right? They don't want to deal with cash anymore. Maybe they're in a tricky part of town, right? So they only deal with credit. Mm-hmm. That's where I've seen those signs. Not that I'm in shady places in town or anything like that. Now, I just said you could use your credit for everything, but then I was speaking with a guy today who was saying, wait a minute, how do I pay my mortgage? Right? Because he was banking with Bank of America, and he's like, they won't take a credit card for a mortgage payment. And so, okay, I guess it doesn't work. Never mind, folks, we're sorry. No, you got to think outside the box. Just because the bank says no, I mean, we're so conditioned, if the bank says no, or if the bank says there's a penalty or a fee to something, then, well, we can't do that. No, okay, first of all, it can be done, right? You can't pay them directly, right? They won't accept it, but that doesn't mean you still can't use a credit card to pay it. You now have to think outside the bank, right? Instead of think outside the box, think outside the bank. You need to go through a third-party processor. There's all kinds. If you have a business, I like Behalf, because they only charge 1%.
Right? Yeah, Behalf is good.
Behalf, check them out. If you have a business, check them out. But for a lot of people, you don't have a business. So what can you do? Well, I mean, I don't get any kickbacks from any of these folks. I'm just letting you know that plastic out there offers you 2.5%. And so now you're saying, well, wait a minute. So not only do I have to pay the mortgage, but then I also have to pay an extra percentage rate on top of that? Yes, you do. But let's look at this. Let's think about the math just for a moment. And hopefully, I don't have a screen for it, but remember, in your first payment, if here's 0 to 100%, right? So of the interest that you're paying on your first payment, you're like at 82% of that payment is going to interest, right? Now, if you use a credit card at 21% interest, remember that interest rate, how much is that costing you? That's down here at 1.75%, way down here. If you had to use a third-party processor and add another 2.5%, So now what are you at? You're at right around 4%.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to pay 4% interest on that, or do you want to pay 82? Right? I still say that the numbers work out in your favor and you still save money. So I would say going through some type of third-party processor. If you have the ability to, through a merchant services account, invoice yourself so you can convert from your credit into cash, and then wire transfer that money over to your bank using the correct wire instructions, you could do that. There's so many different options. We're in tax season. Funny, we're out of April, but we're still in tax season because everything's been pushed back. So we do get people who talk about, hey, I don't want to lose the tax deduction for my mortgage interest. And, the laws change and some people are like, well, wait a minute, the standard deduction is bigger than, look, laws change, things come and go. But this is a question that we've gotten a lot about the mortgage interest deduction. So let's take a look at this. Person number one and person number two, both of these people, they have they started a business, I believe. Wait a minute, maybe person number two. No, person number one has a business. Person number two doesn't. Person number one, they don't get the standard mortgage deduction, and so their taxable income is $60,000. And because of their self-employment tax, right, paid at 20, and they're paid at 25%, they're paying more in taxes. Because the person on the other side, they took the mortgage interest deduction, so their taxable income was only $48,000, right? So then they only get taxed $12,000. But now take a look at this, because of the fact that they didn't. Okay, so because because of being a business owner, they had more income at their disposal. Okay, so whereas the person number two, after they pay their taxes, they only have $38,000 to work with. Whereas after you pay your taxes on the first side, you have $45,000. That's how much actual net cash that you have to work with for the year. So you end up being ahead financially as person number one, going ahead and paying off that full mortgage, right, versus the tax deduction. And let's keep in mind that person number one, who was doing the credit banking strategy, also saved $38,866 in interest in their first year, whereas person number two did not. So you've got to really weigh the differences here between the two. But this has been a lot of fun. We've gotten through the training portion of today, but now it's time to get to my favorite portion of today, which is the case study. And see, this credit banking mastermind that we've been doing for the last 18 weeks, this is where we take time, where we have we go over some focused training, and then we also then spend time with you going over individual numbers. And so let's go ahead now, and what I'm going to do is change my screen. So we'll go ahead and we'll switch that. Hi, folks. And then we'll come back here, and then I need to share. Oops. Wait a minute. What I need to do is share. So I need to click here. I need to click here, and where is it? We're over here. I click share. What I need to do is in that, and that. All right.
You're still. My internet went down though.
Okay, no, I'm fine here, but I'm trying to share my screen. There we go. All right, folks. There we go. Mastermind number 18. So now, each and every week, we take the time to go over numbers from different folks who have joined our mastermind. They share their own numbers. Now, we don't share any names. We don't go over any locations, any names of any specific accounts, but we're just looking at the raw numbers so we can practice this credit banking strategy and see how we would make this work. And so here's what we do. These are the numbers that we have to work with, but let's always, you know, how do we play? So we're talking about credit banking. Credit banking, you know, let's talk about what do we need? What do we need for credit banking? There's 3 things we need. Anybody remember what they are? Anyone? Bueller? Folks, I also want to encourage folks on this mastermind to participate. We want you to fully participate. And so at this point, the training's over. So this is where free flow discussion takes place as we go over these numbers here. But to do credit banking, there are 3 prerequisites that must be met for credit banking to take place. First prerequisite, if you know it, go ahead and throw it into the chat, let us know. But I'm gonna go ahead and start putting it in here, right? You need debt. First of all, the #1 thing to participate is you need debt. All right, let's see what we got coming in the chat.
Debt.
Yep.
Fitz, good job.
Yeah, Fitz told us #1 thing you have to have is debt. And Raul told us number 2. Yeah, number 2, we need positive cash flow. Right? You get positive cash flow when your income exceeds your expenses. But what's the number 3 thing that we need? Number 3. So we need debt, we need positive cash flow, but having debt by itself and having positive cash flow isn't enough. And I just said, hey to everybody. I said, hey to everybody in the webinar. Cool. Yes, Terrell, awesome. Hopefully I said your, Corey's.
Debt weapon.
You need your debt weapon.
Good job.
Your sword, your slave. You need a line of credit that's preferable, yes, or a credit card. So if you have these 3 things, these 3 components, these 3 ingredients, we can make the credit banking cookie cake with ice cream. All right, so good job. I love
good job, everybody.
I love our folks. We have the best.
Antonio, Paul, good stuff. All
right, so as we look at this, we look at our income and expenses, and what is it that we're always trying to find out? We're always looking at a couple of things each and every week to help us figure these things out. So I'm looking at income, $5,400, and I'm looking at expenses of $2,400. So some things we have to figure out here. First thing we have to figure out, we have to figure out our cash flow. What is our cash flow? Well, we take our income and we minus our expenses, and that equals, nope, not add. That equals, what does that equal? Wow, Terrell's on top of it. Let's see if he's right. Yes, we have a cash flow of $2,950. Good job, Terrell. I love it. People are really catching on. They're getting it. Good. Simple equation, simple stuff, but you know, a lot of folks, you know, they're tuning in for the first time. They haven't seen this. They don't know what this stuff is. So we're helping cash flow. This is the speed at which we will be paying down debt. Now we have an available line of credit of $10,000, and we have a current balance on the card of $0, and the interest rate on the card is 11.6%. The next thing we try to calculate is what is our utilization? Utilization, because we always want to spell things correctly as well. Well, that should be pretty easy to calculate. We're not utilizing any of this card right now. So our utilization is at 0%. Now, a lot of times when we're working with folks and they have a line of credit, we'll see that they're already maxed out.
Right.
And so that becomes a big concern. So, but when we're looking at, and there's a reason why we're going over all of this information, folks, is because when you look at your own finances, when you do your own budget, you have to find your positive cash flow. If there is no positive cash flow, we can't do credit banking until we get positive cash flow. Now, available credit is good, like having a line of credit or a credit card. But if we're all maxed out, we don't have anything available. So determining our utilization, a utilization at 0% is good. So we have some room to work with. The next thing we look with here here is our loan amount. So this is a loan, $307,000, 30 years. 30 years is typically a home mortgage, right? That breaks down, of course, into 360 months, right? And this started back on May 1st of 2020. May 1st. Oh man, that means that this just started, right?
Wow, yeah.
Wow, okay. Good deal.
Perfect. This is the best time at the beginning. You get on this right now.
Right, exactly.
This is the most expensive time possible.
At 3.5% interest with payments of $1,676. So the next things we start looking at is debt efficiency. Did I spell that right? Okay, good. Our debt efficiency. Does anybody remember how to calculate debt efficiency? It's been a few weeks since we've gone over it, so I don't know if everybody remembers. I'm going to tell you that you take your loan balance and you divide that by your monthly payment. All right. That's your debt efficiency. And what that's going to do is it's going to help us see how much of your cash is being eaten up by a specific debt, and it helps us know which bills we need to pay off first. So here's our loan amount, $307,000. Can anybody calculate the loan efficiency for this mortgage, right? Where you'd have to divide that by the $1,676 amount. Oops. Anybody know what that debt efficiency? I'm expecting Terrell Daniels to just already have the answer. I mean, he's been on top of it. He's just been like firing it out there, right?
There you go. Raul had it. Loan balance divided by monthly.
All right.
Ooh, it was a race. 183.17.
All right, let's take a look.
That was close.
Oh, it's not $183. That's just okay. Right. So this is a rate. This is a ratio. This is and good job to Terrell and to Fitz for getting that number almost simultaneously. But Terrell just got it in before Fitz.
He's got that cable internet. It's faster. No, the fiber optic.
The 5G. Okay, so on debt efficiency, a little extra training here. You've got 0, to 50 to 100, and then you've got, everything over 100. Okay, so if you look on this little scale that I put in here, right, when you're looking at debt efficiency, when you're looking on debt efficiency on a scale like this, what is this telling you? Well, the closer you are to 0, the more inefficient your debt is, right? Once you see a number around 50, you're getting to the point where, okay, that's the kind of debt that you might want to refinance. Anytime you can get to 100 or over 100, that's a more efficient debt, right? Some would say that's good debt, right? Because that's debt you can afford, and that's debt that's helping you build your payment history. So when we see our debt efficiency is at 183.17, we know that this efficiency is, you know, that's good. But we've got some other debts down here, right? So we just looked at the mortgage, but we have two student loans here. So we have a student loan of $13,000 with a monthly payment of $125, and then we have a student loan of $35,000 with a payment of $420. So why don't we go ahead and calculate the debt efficiency of those as well? So for student loan number one, what is that going to be? All right, student loan number one. So we're going to do $13,000, divide that by our payment, our monthly payment of $125, and that'll give us, oh, did it not work? Did I do something wrong? Oh, it's because I'm here. Hold on. Yep, 104. Fitz was on it. Fitz was on it. He got the 104. The debt efficiency, so we're going to put, oops, debt efficiency, oops, debt efficiency of 104. Oh, come on. All right. Beautiful, perfect. All right, so now we're going to take our 35,000, divide that by our 420, and that equals my calculator came up with 83.88. All right, debt efficiency, 83.88. All right, and bada boom, bada bing. Okay, so speaking with, let's see here, looking back, Terrell had it right. He said it a few minutes ago, pay off the second loan first, right? If we're looking at debt efficiency numbers, we have 183, we have 104, and then we have 88.33. So now, again, here's the thing that most people will look at. They're like, well, wait a minute. I want to pay off the house first because it's the biggest debt, right? Or someone would be, you would say, no, or I want to pay the house off because it's the largest payment. But when you look at it, this $420 a month is very inefficient on a $35,000 debt. So, I mean, again, it's over 50, so there's no reason to refinance it. But still, I mean, if these are our three debts, our only three debts, Terrell is right. This is the first debt that we would pay off. And if you look at what our cash flow is, $2,950. Well, it's very simple. You don't need to, have any superpowers to do this, just some basic math. But if our remaining balance is $35,000, and we're going to divide that by our cash flow of $2,950. So let's go ahead and copy that. Let's figure out how long is it going to take to pay off. How long is it going to take us to pay off this this debt? Right? Because the number that we're going to get is going to be the number of months that it's going to take to pay off this debt. That's right. Not $11. Right, it's going to take 11.86. So imagine you've got the student loan debt and it's totally paid off. Good job, Raul, by the way. It's totally going to be paid off in less than a year. In less than a year, you've paid off that student loan debt.
Wow.
Now what happens to our cash flow? What happens to our cash flow? I'll give you a hint. Right here, I just underlined it. What happens now to our cash flow?
Wow.
We just eliminated a...
increased it. Yes. Increase it.
Yes, Raul's right. So we're going to increase by $420. This is good.
Missing the foe.
I'm missing the foe. Sorry. All right. So now our cash flow is at $3,370.
That's a way to increase it in 1 year.
That's right. Now, after a year of making, payments on this, this will go down
to like 12,999.
So I guess we'll just work with that same number, but keep in mind it will be a little bit less. But now that let's take this 13,000, right? We'll take the 13,000. Oops. Boom. 13,000. We'll divide that by our new cash flow, 3,370. Right? And what is that going to equal? That's right. It gets paid off in less than months. And
wow.
What did we just do to our cash flow again?
We
just freed up another
125. You just got $125 a month raise.
Boom. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and add in our $125. And now we're at $3,495. Another way to look at it is we decreased our expenses by $420, right? So then our expenses became $2,030, and then we decreased our expenses again by another $125, right? Getting us to $1,905 of expenses. So you increase your cash flow, decrease your expenses, increases your cash flow. Now we're in a really great position here to tackle this mortgage. So we've been making the minimum payments now for where are we at? We got a year. So all we're going to do is add. Oops, that's not going to add 3.86 to that, right? And I'm adding the time that we took on this. So 15 months, 15.72. So we'll just round it up to 16. So we're looking at terms and months here. We're just going to take our 360 months.
So
we're going to subtract 16, right? And that means we still have 344 months left to pay on this mortgage. Now, I think it's time to pull out our handy dandy Excel spreadsheet, credit banking calculator. Everybody should have one of these. If you don't, well, then you're just not living life. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Again, this is just a statistical representation of how the income works with a credit banking strategy. It doesn't take into account that people's income fluctuates and that people's expenses fluctuate. So as long as those stay the same for 10, 20, 30 years, which is not realistic, but again, it gives us a good baseline, a good place to start. So we're at $307,000, 3.5% interest rate, yes, and we have 344 months left to pay on that. Now our interest rate on our line of credit is 11.6. So we'll change that down here. Let's change that to 11.6. Our income is at 5,400, and our expenses are now down to $1,905. Okay, folks. Well, you know what? I don't even think I'm sharing this. You guys can't even see what I'm doing. You know what? That's okay.
My fault.
I'm gonna blame.
No, I just realized that.
I'm gonna blame that on Mr. Fleming.
No, thanks, Paul, for that heads up.
I apologize, folks. There you go.
Hey, there we go.
Everybody can now see what we're doing, hopefully.
Yep.
All right, so what you're seeing here on your screen is the 307,000. So I was just taking numbers right off the screen. So you were looking at the numbers, and I was just plugging them here into the credit banking calculator. So here's our $307,000 mortgage at 3.5% interest rate. Because we had already worked on taking care of those 2 student loans first, and we've been making the payments, we went ahead and now we're at 344 months left. And then we have 11.6% on the interest rate on the credit card. Here's the income that didn't change, but our expenses went down. So here's where our current cash flow is at. And so now we look at it. If we did nothing, right, it would still take almost 29 years to pay that off, right? If we took all that cash flow that we had, not even all that cash flow, if we were able to put an extra $2,000, right, that would save you $130,000, but you'd chew up all your money. You'd have no money. The better way to do it is with the basic credit banking strategy. And here's why. Because you're using other people's money, that opium that we were talking about. You're freeing up you're paying things down using other people's money, renting it at a low APR. I mean, 11.6% interest, that's per year. I mean, what does that come out to? 11.6 divided by 12 means you're renting people's money at 0.96% per month. It's not even 1%, right? Wow. Less than 1% is the cost to rent other people's money. What does that do for you? That leaves more liquidity on your side. That means you have more of your own money, available credit to work with. And so but if you take all of your extra money in the orange column here and you put it into the house, yeah, you're paying it down faster, but you have no access to that money. It's a one-way shot. You make that money payment, it's gone. Where did it go? It went into the equity in your home, but you can't access the equity in your home while you're living in it and paying down the debt. You actualize it when you sell it, or if you were to get a HELOC, which is the advanced strategy here that you see. But let's go back to the green one. So, and a lot of people, you're not going to put all your extra money there. Some people, a lot of times put an extra 500 or something. But anyway, we like to show what would happen if you were able to put all of your cash flow into something like that. But look at this. You can pay off your mortgage using a basic credit banking strategy. Look at that. In a little over 6 years. 6 years and 4 months. That's it. 6 years, 4 months.
Nice.
And look at, you save yourself $129,897 of interest. Now, you don't have to, and we don't actually have a lot of people stick with the basic strategy through the whole debt, because as you pay it down and you get into the territory of 40% or more equity, you look at going to a regional bank or a credit union and finding a first position home equity line of credit. And then those come at really low interest rates. And then you're able to pay off that whole first mortgage. And then you have an additional line of credit that, depending on the value of the house, this $307,000 house is huge. So could be $60,000 maybe potentially in an 80% loan to value. Again, this is advanced, and we don't, on this webinar, spend a lot of time on the advanced credit banking strategy, because we want to spend a lot of time helping people understand the basics. But even just the basics alone, taking a 30-year mortgage that you start today and paying it off in 6 years, 4 months, and saving yourself $129,897 in interest. I mean, if I had a mic, I'd be dropping it right now. Boom. I mean, come on. All right. So we've reached the end of our time here, folks. The rest of the time is for any questions that you might have for us. We definitely want to, I mean, we've shown you some amazing stuff here. I love it when we do this mastermind together. I love the participation. Thank you, Raul and Fitz. Of course, Terrell, you were amazing, Terrell, today. I mean, Corey, of course, you guys, thank you so much for your participation. But I really see that you guys are getting it. You guys, you're seeing where we look at first and how we start attacking the debt and how we, I mean, let's go back to what we were looking at before. I mean, you guys are amazing. You're on top of how we calculate our cash flow, how we look at our debt efficiencies, what we pay off first, and how we free up that cash flow. And it snowballs, it just gets bigger and bigger. And then, of course, to all of you on YouTube, we're grateful each and every time you're able to tune in and watch our mastermind.
This is a real estate question. Do we want to, if you want to go over this, this was from...
We've got 4 minutes. Do you want to answer the question in 4 minutes?
We can try to. Nasty had so as far as folks on YouTube, it really comes down to what your preference is. I mean, if you engage on Zoom, you'll get a weekly reminder and get plugged in on the Zoom call. We started a little bit before the YouTube.
They're best friends. They get a Christmas card and the Christmas party. No.
So there's chat engagement. There's chats on both sides. It's really whatever works for your convenience. But we did put the link in the description there if you want to get access to our weekly Zoom events.
And the people in the mastermind also get a free 30-minute one-on-one consultation as well.
Oh, that's very, very true. Now, so we did have a question that came in earlier. Let's see, where can I get the Excel credit banking calculator?
Yes.
Oh yeah, Terrell. It's so new. I mean, this is like we're building the plane as the plane is taking off.
You're like saying 4 questions and not answering anything, and then okay, one at a time.
That's what happens when I read 4 different chats.
We'll take it one at a time. Raul, where can I get the Excel credit banking calculator? First of all, you have to buy Microsoft Office, and then you learn how to use it, create the formulas, put it together, just like I did. If you, Raul, just go ahead and shoot an email to Biz Credit. Let's see.
Well, should we have them fill out the credit banking form?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and show folks that, right? Because people, they're like, oh man, I love that. I want it. Well, that's a perk for the people that are in the mastermind. So we just did the case study, right? So where do you go? You go to wiseguysanties.com/credit banking, right? And then you can participate in the Tuesday night webinars that happen 8 p.m. Central Time. Fill out your information. I don't sell that information to anybody. That's just, I only contact you if you want me to, right? Fill out your information. If all you're looking for is the credit banking calculator, just put in the current situation, may I please have the credit banking calculator? But keep in mind, to do that, you have to check mark these 4 boxes, right? Because this means that you'll hold me harmless if you misuse my calculator.
We're on your screen there, but that's okay.
Oh, you're on my screen? Right. Why can't we just get this to switch over to screen 2? Just like, bam. There we go. Okay. Sorry, folks. So here's what you do. You go to wiseguysanties.com/credit-banking, and then you fill in your name, your email address, your phone number, check mark these 4 boxes, right? And you'll get access to the weekly webinar. All right, you can get to have a one-on-one session with myself or Ray Fleming, your choice, and then you can put all your financial information. This is where the case studies come from. They come from folks like you, and we're able to go over information. We leave all of your personal information off. of course, but in a one-on-one, we go over all of this information. And then in the current situation, you can outline any more information that you weren't able to put in these fields. Also, if you want the access to that, the Excel spreadsheet, the credit banking calculator, what I call it, just put, may I have the calculator, please? And as long as I see that and these 4 boxes are check marked, then I will reply with the attached spreadsheet for you to use and to love. We also had I guess we're not going to get to that real estate question, but that real estate question could be answered next Thursday at the real estate mastermind, because we have a question here where we're being asked, how do we get access to the Thursday mastermind? How do we get access to the Thursday mastermind?
That's a great question. Any ideas, folks? How are you guys going to gain access to the mastermind? We will be making an announcement for it. We'll be sending out a text blast. We'll be sending out several things, and we'll also be showing it live here through different ways. Like I said, this was something that we actually just, we kind of planned out today. So we don't actually have, you know, the webinar set up yet. We don't have it even scheduled. We don't even have it something on our website yet. Literally,
it'll be done by tomorrow, folks.
Yeah, we literally just came up with this idea beforehand.
But we'll put it into our list.
Yeah,
it'll go in the list on our website, and people can register for it off of the website. And then we'll have links in future videos. So if you like, if you want to go to the Wise Guys and Ties YouTube channel,
go to the Wise Guys and Ties channel and hit subscribe. That way, because the first one's going to be live on the Wise Guys channel.
Right.
It won't be actually here on the Velocity channel yet. We'll end up putting recordings and blasting it out that way. But make sure that you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, the Wise Guys and Ties. And then that way, we will put a reminder out there. It will most likely take place 6 p.m. Pacific time.
8 p.m. Central Time.
8 p.m. Central Time. So the same time that this takes place, but it'll just be Thursday night. So you guys can get plugged into that. And then also, as far as, yeah, we will definitely be covering investment properties using the credit banking strategy. I mean, we're going to go into a lot of advanced topics there. Like Nessie, she had a question about with tenants not paying and a fourplex. Nessie, we're not going to get to it today, but I will get back to you by email, let you know about that situation. And then we'll also cover that on our first mastermind session.
I also had somebody say, have sent in the form before asking for the credit banking calculator and they didn't get it. Look, if you send in the email and you don't get a response back within like 2 days, then send it again, because we are literally getting flooded with thousands of emails, folks. And please forgive us if you slipped through the cracks. It was not intentional.
Plus, Outlook has been doing some weird update where I have literally sent emails over the last few days, and for some reason, when I restart my computer, then all of a sudden it goes ding, sent. I'm like, whoa, 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 what just sent? And then somebody's like, whoa, wait, where's this email? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I sent it, but we'll get back with you guys. That's
thank you so much for having us. We enjoy this time with you guys. Always remember that we're here, that we exist to really help you achieve your God-given purpose. Our company comes alongside of you and gives you the tools and resources to get out of your financial debt situations by utilizing, time-honored, tested, proven strategies of not only debt elimination, but wealth creation. We want to always encourage you to start a business, as that is the solution to so many different problems that you might have in your life. And we also help your businesses. We help you start a business, grow a business, and fund a business. Folks, I want to also thank CJ Wallace and the Velocity channel for having us guest appear on the channel tonight. And to all of you out there, on behalf of myself and Ray Fleming.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. God bless.